Can you read that? It's supernatural favor. Supernatural is extraordinary or something associated with forces we don't understand or that cannot be explained by science. It is a power that we cannot understand and it cannot be explained by any scientific laws. So God's favor is what I mean by that supernatural favor. God's favor is the power that changes things for us. His favor will transform any difficult situation you face, whether in your family or in your finances, your health, or your education. God's favor opens doors and makes possible what seems impossible. Sometimes things seem so impossible, but in the eyes of the Lord, all things are possible. So just believe God for the supernatural favor. So if you want to experience the supernatural favor, just cling on to the Almighty God. Have a wonderful week, dear girls. So I'm starting a new chapter today. Banking. It is the 6th chapter in your textbook. So can you turn along with me to page number 95 in your textbook? Banking. In 11th standard in the commerce, you would have already studied about this banking, commercial banks and central banks. So with that exposure, I would like to start the new chapter today, banking. So what is banking? As you see here, finance is the lifeblood of all economic activities. For human beings, blood is so essential. Without blood, you cannot do anything. You will fall ill. They say you are suffering from anemia. You have to increase it. So you have to eat dates, figs, and all items, food items, which is rich in iron. So like how blood is important to all human beings, finance is very important for all economic activities. Finance is the lifeblood of all economic activities. Without finance, the economy cannot function. So we have trade, commerce, agriculture, and industries. So these are all the economic activities. Trade, commerce, agriculture, and industry. A bank is generally understood as an institution which provides fundamental financial services such as accepting deposits and lending loans. So the primary function of a bank is to accept the deposits from the customers and lend loans to the customers. A bank is generally understood as an institution which provides fundamental financial services such as accepting deposits and lending loans. So let's see about the historical development of banks. The Riksbank of Sweden, which had sprung from a private bank established in 1656, is the oldest central bank in the world. I repeat, the Riksbank of Sweden is the oldest central bank which was established in the year 1956. A large number of central banks were established between 1921 and 1954 in compliance with a resolution passed by the International Finance Conference held at Brussels in the year 1920. So here you have a list of banks which were established after the Brussels Conference in 1920. The South African Reserve Bank in 1921, the Central Bank of China was established in 1928, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand in the year 1934, the Reserve Bank of India in 1935. So this is the Reserve Bank is the Central Bank of India. Then the Central Bank of Ceylon, which was established in 1950. Then we have the Bank of Israel, established in 1954. Girls, please make note of all these things because it will be asked as a 1-mark question. Sometimes a creative question or a question from inside the textbook. These questions, okay, when was the South African Reserve Bank established? When was the Central Bank of China established? Such questions can be expected from within the textbook. Next, let's go on to the history of Indian banks. The first Bank of India was the Bank of Hindustan. This was established in 1770 under the British rule. The banking system in India was controlled and dominated by the presidency banks. There were 3 presidency banks. That is, before the Reserve Bank of India, we had the presidency banks. We had 3 presidency banks which controlled the banking system in India. Bank of Bengal 1809, Bank of Bombay 1840 and Bank of Madras 1843. Chennai was only called as Madras. Recently only the name Chennai was given to the district of Madras. So Bank of Madras was established in 1843. They were all called as presidential banks. Then all these banks merged in the year 1921 and it was called as the Imperial Bank of India. Later on, it changed into the State Bank of India in 1955. So now we have the State Bank. Okay, the State Bank is even functioning nowadays. So State Bank of India was formed from the Imperial Bank of India. So all these 3 banks merged in the year 1921 and they were called as the Imperial Bank of India. Later on it was changed to SBI in the year 1955. Now let's see what a commercial bank is. Commercial banks are the institutions that make short-term loans to business and in the process create money. This definition was given by Culbertson. So define, in case they ask a question like this, define a commercial bank, you can give the definition given by Culbertson. So commercial banks give short-term loans. They do not give long-term loans. They give short-term loans and in the process they create money. How do they create money? In case a person comes to the bank to get loan, maybe he wants a loan for 1 lakh. So the bank says you can get 1 lakh and you have to pay a rate of interest of 6,000 for that 1 lakh. So when you return that money, you have to pay 1 lakh plus the rate of interest, the 6,000. So when the bank gives, it gives 1 lakh. But when it receives from the customer, when it receives or when it gets back the loan from the customer, it gets it as 1 lakh and 6,000. So this 6,000 is created by the bank. This money worth 6,000 is created by the bank. So that's what is meant by the process of creating money. Commercial banks are institutions that make short-term loans to business and in the process they create money. Commercial banks are institutions that conduct business with a profit motive. So commercial banks function with the profit motive. It is not only welfare motive. The main motive is profit. They are making money. They are creating money. So commercial banks are institutions that conduct business with profit motive. by accepting public deposits and lending loans for various investment purposes. So they function with a profit motive. They accept public deposits in case somebody wants to keep the money safe in the bank. If they keep it at home, there is a fear of robbery or theft. So we can even deposit our money in the banks and we get a interest for that. So the primary aim of the commercial bank is profit motive. It accepts the deposits from the public and it also lends loans for various investment purposes. What do you mean by investment? Suppose a businessman wants to start a new business. He needs a factory or he needs a land or he needs machines. So he needs money for that to buy all these things. That is only called as investment purposes. So these are some of the examples of commercial banks. The Karur Vysya Bank, the Federal Bank, the HDFC, Kotak Mahindra, ICICI. So these are all private commercial banks. Okay. So top 10 private sector banks. Private sector means it is owned by individuals, private. Okay. You also have the public sector banks. These are private sector banks. So some of the examples for the top private sector banks in India. So let us go on to the functions of commercial banks. So the functions of commercial banks are broadly classified into primary functions and secondary functions, which are shown in the picture. The functions of commercial banks can be categorized into three: primary functions, secondary functions, and other functions. So you have the same thing here, primary functions. So what are the primary functions? The foremost thing is accepting deposits. Then you have advancing loans. Then apart from that, you have secondary functions: agency services, general utility services, transfer of funds, and creation of credit. You also have other functions. Under that, we will be studying about money supply and credit creation. So these are the functions of the commercial bank. This is a very, very important question, girls. Quite often asked in the examination, all your examinations, maybe your revision or your half-yearly or public examination. Always, generally, they have this question: functions of commercial bank, or there is another question: function of central bank. So this is the answer for question number 36. You have the question at the back: elucidate the functions of commercial banks. If that question is asked, the answer is found on page 96, and this will be the answer: the functions of commercial banks. So first, primary functions. Under primary functions, you have the first and foremost function is called as accepting deposits. It implies that commercial banks are mainly dependent on public deposits. So the commercial banks is mainly dependent on the public deposits. There are two types of deposits which will be discussed here. First one, demand deposit, and the second one is time deposits. So first side heading is accepting deposits. Under this accepting deposits, you have two more subdivisions: demand deposits and time deposits. So demand deposits refer to deposits that can be withdrawn by individuals without any prior notice to the bank. So whenever, suppose if I have an account in the Indian bank, and whenever if I have money, and whenever I need money, I can go to the bank and I can just withdraw my amount. That is only called as a demand deposit. So whenever I demand my deposit, the bank has to give it to me. Without any prior notice, I can just go to the bank and I can withdraw the amount. So it refers to deposits that can be withdrawn by individuals without any prior notice to the bank. In other words, the owner of these deposits are allowed to withdraw money anytime by writing a withdrawal slip or a check at the bank counter or from ATM centers using debit cards. Next one is called as the time deposit. Time deposit. In the name itself, you have time. So it refers to deposits that are made for certain committed period of time. When I go and deposit the money, I will say, sir, let my money be in the bank for 1 year. I will come and withdraw the money only next year, September 2021 only, I will come and withdraw the money. So the bank is very much assured that I will not come and take that money which has been deposited for a particular period of time. This type of deposit will fetch more rate of interest. So time deposits are deposits that are made for certain committed period of time. Banks pay higher rate of interest on time deposits. These deposits can be withdrawn only after a specific time period by providing a written notice to the bank. Unlike the first one, demand deposit, I need not give any prior notice to the bank. But when I withdraw money from my time deposit, I need to inform the bank, I need to give a written notice to the bank that I will come and withdraw the money on such and such a day. Next one, advancing loans. So the primary function is accepting deposit. Under accepting deposit, we saw two side headings. One is the demand deposit and the other one the time deposit. Next we have advancing loans. It refers to granting loans to individuals and businessmen. So the bank is giving loan. It is advancing loans to the individuals as well as business sector people. Commercial banks grant loans in the form of overdraft, cash credit, and discounting bills of exchange. So in these ways, by giving overdraft or cash credit and discounting bills of exchange, commercial banks grant loans. How do they grant loans? How do the commercial banks grant loans? They grant loans in the form of three things: overdraft, cash credit, and discounting bills of exchange. So what is overdraft? It is a facility given to the customers. Overdraft is a facility given to the customers by the bank. Even if their balance amount is zero. I am a customer of Indian Bank. I do not have any amount in my deposit, or I do not have any amount in my account. My account balance is zero, but I have this facility called overdraft. I can issue a check without any money in my bank account to someone, and the bank will pay it on my behalf. This facility only is called as overdraft. So overdraft is a facility given by bank when the account balance reaches zero. Okay, so this overdraft loan has a rate of interest and it has also got a fee. So what is a cash credit? Short-term loan only is called as cash credit. It is not a long-term credit, it is a short-term credit. So short-term loan extended to company, facility to withdraw money from the current account only is called as cash credit. Discounting bills of exchange. What is bills of exchange? Bills of exchange is something like a check only. Bills of exchange is frequently used in international trade. It is used by the bank. If individuals use it, it is called as a bank draft. If businessmen use it, then it is called as a trade draft. All these things are not given in your book. Your books gives only overdraft, cash credit, and discounting bills of exchange. So I've explained what is an overdraft, what is cash credit, and what is a bill of exchange. So commercial banks grant loans in the form of overdraft, cash credit, and discounting bills of exchange. Next, let us go on to the secondary function. What are the secondary functions? The first one is banks acts as my agent. If I have an account in my bank, it serves as my agent. This is only called as the agency function. The secondary functions can be classified under three heads, namely the agency functions, the general utility functions, and other functions. So what are the agency functions? Agency function, it implies that commercial bank acts as an agent of customers by performing various functions. So the bank acts as an agent to its customers. First thing is collecting checks. Under the agency function, the first point is collecting checks. If you have your textbook, I think it will be easy for you to follow, girls. Without the textbook, you might find it difficult. because I have not noted all the side headings in the slide in the PPT. So it is better that you turn your pages, textbook pages, to page number 97. If you follow it along with the video, it will be easy for you to understand. The first function under agency function is collecting checks. Banks collect checks and bills of exchange on the behalf of their customers through clearinghouse facilities provided by the central bank. So banks, what do? If someone has to pay money to me, they just give it as a check. When I go and present the check in the bank takes the check and they give me money. So it acts as an agent. Banks collect checks and bills of exchange on the behalf of their customers through clearinghouse facilities provided by the central bank. Under the agency function, the next point is collecting income. For example, I work in Benting School. I work for the school and the school gives me a monthly salary. I do not go to the school to collect my salary every month. My income is remitted in my account. The school remits my salary in Indian Bank and Indian Bank collects the income, my income, from the bank. So it from the school. நான் சொல்கிறது புரியுதா? நான் இப்போ ஸ்கூலில் வேலை செய்கிறேன். என் சம்பளம் எனக்கு நேராக என் கையில் போய் நான் வாங்குறதில்ல. அது ஸ்கூல்லேருந்து வந்து எனக்கு கொடுக்குறதில்ல. ஸ்கூல்லேருந்து என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க, நான் எந்த பேங்க்கில் அக்கௌண்ட் வச்சுருக்கனோ அந்த அக்கௌண்ட்டுக்கு என் காசை என்ன பண்ணிடுறாங்க, டெபாசிட் பண்ணிடுறாங்க. என்னுடைய சேலரியை என்ன பண்ணிடுறாங்க, பேங்க்கில் போட்டுடுறாங்க. ஓகே, பேங்க் என்ன பண்ணுது, என்னுடைய இன்கம்மை ஸ்கூல்லேருந்து வாங்கி என்னுடைய அக்கௌண்ட்டில் அவங்க கிரெடிட் பண்ணிடுறாங்க. நான் எப்போல்லாம் வேணுமோ காசு நான் எங்கேருந்து எடுத்துக்கலாம், பேங்க்லேருந்து எடுத்துக்கலாம். நான் ஸ்கூலில் போய் வாங்குறதுக்கு பதிலாக என்னுடைய இன்கம்மை என்ன பண்ணுது, ஸ்கூல்லேருந்து பேங்க்கில் போட்டுடுறாங்க. பேங்க் வந்து என்ன பண்ணுது, இட் கலெக்ட்ஸ் த இன்கம் ஆன் மை பிஹாஃப். கமர்ஷியல் பேங்க்ஸ் கலெக்ட் டிவிடெண்ட்ஸ், பென்ஷன், சாலரிஸ், ரெண்ட்ஸ் அண்ட் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் ஆன் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் ஆன் பிஹாஃப் ஆஃப் தர் கஸ்டமர்ஸ். ஓகே, ஸோ என்னுடைய சார்பாக பேங்க் என்னுடைய சம்பளத்தை வாங்கி பத்திரமா என்ன பண்ணியிருக்கு, பேங்க்கில் வச்சுருக்கு. அதுக்கு பேர் தான் என்னது, ஜென்ரல் யூட்டிலிட்டி சர்வீஸில் ரெண்டாவது பாயிண்ட். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஒன் இஸ் கலெக்டிங் செக், செகண்ட் ஒன் இஸ் கலெக்டிங் இன்கம், அண்ட் தேர்ட் ஒன் இஸ் பேயிங் எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ். வாட் டு யூ மீன் பை பேயிங்? ஸோ அண்டர் ஜென்ரல் யூட்டிலிட்டி சர்வீசஸ் 3 இது சொல்லுங்கள். ஃபஸ்ட்டு வந்து என்னது, ஃபஸ்ட் ஃபங்க்ஷன் இஸ் கலெக்டிங் செக்ஸ், நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து கலெக்டிங் இன்கம், third one, the paying expenses. Suppose if I have to pay my telephone bill or my children's fees, what do? I just give an instruction to the bank to debit certain amount from my account for telephone charges or for the fees of my children. So the bank pays all my expenses on my behalf. I need not go to the bank. I can just give an instruction to the bank asking them to pay my telephone bills or my insurance or my children's school fees. So this function is called as paying expenses. Commercial banks make the payments of various obligations of the customers such as telephone bills, insurance premiums, school fees and rents. Similar to credit voucher, a debit voucher is sent to the customers for information when expenses are paid by the bank. So whenever the bank pays on my behalf, I also get an intimation from the bank stating that so much amount is taken from my account for the payment of insurance or school fees or my rent. Then you have the general utility functions. General utility functions. Under general utility functions, you have 3 functions. What are they? Providing locker facility. If I want to keep my documents or my gold, jewelry, I can go and keep it in the bank. They give me locker facility. That is only called as providing locker facility. Commercial banks provide locker facilities to its customers for safe custody of jewelry, shares and other valuable items. Issuing, next one is issuing traveler's check. In case I want to travel abroad, I need not carry the amount because it is very unsafe to carry huge sum of amount when I travel to some other country, different country. So the bank issues traveler's check. Banks issue traveler's check to individuals for traveling outside the country. Traveler's checks are the safe and easy way to protect money while traveling. Next function is dealing in foreign exchange. Please open your textbooks and see what I am teaching. Otherwise, you will find it very difficult. Dealing in foreign exchange. Commercial banks helps in providing foreign exchange to businessmen dealing in exports and imports. If businessmen are doing transaction with some other country, Germany or France or Middle East countries, they need currencies. They need different currencies of different countries. So the bank provides foreign exchange. It deals with foreign exchange. Commercial banks help in providing foreign exchange to businessmen dealing in exports and imports. However, the commercial banks need to get permission from the central bank for dealing in foreign exchange. If the commercial banks wants to deal with foreign exchange, they must get a prior permission from the central bank. Then other functions. Then you have electronic banking also, e-banking. I can do banking through internet, or I can also use the ATM. Lastly, we have other functions. Under other functions, you have, this comes under other functions, okay? Other functions. Under other functions, you have credit creation. What do you mean by credit creation? Credit creation means the multiplication of loans and advances. Commercial banks receive deposits from the public and use these deposits to give loans. However, loans offered are many times more than the deposit received by the banks. This function of banks is known as credit creation. This is one of the very important function of the commercial bank. Already I told you, how do they create credit? How do the banks create money? They accept deposits and they give loans. So credit creation means the multiplication of loans and advances. The banks give large number of loans and advances. Commercial bank receive deposits from the public. So commercial banks first receive deposits from the public and use these deposits to give to others. Okay, they give this money as loan to others. So these are the functions of the commercial banks. So the functions of the commercial banks can be categorized into three: primary functions, secondary functions, and other functions. Please go through these functions, girls. It is a very, very important question, quite often asked in the examination. I will stop with this and continue the second video.